What is going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. And today, we're here to talk about something on Twitter that I made a post about a couple of days ago. I wanted to get your guys' opinions. I wanted to hear your hot takes from One Piece Treasure Cruise. We know currently it's been relatively slow, not much has been going on, so this is just to build a bit of discussion in the community and just to see what you guys think and what I agree or disagree with you guys in terms of your hot takes. Now, I just want to say this straight off the bat, I asked for hot takes, and it feels like a lot of people in the community don't know what a hot take is. In my opinion, at least the way that I perceive it, a hot take is like an unpopular opinion in the community. If someone says X character is really good, but you think that they're really bad, or vice versa, right? And just kind of just to discuss that. But it just seems like a lot of people, when replying to this tweet, just replied with, oh, you can fix the game by doing this, or these things are bad with the game. And it's a thing, like, everyone already knows what's bad with the game, and we already understand that. So it is kind of weird, the people kind of perceived hot take as like, oh, treasure map's bad. Well, yeah, we kind of already get that. So let's just dive into this and see what kind of hot takes you guys have in the community. This one here from Vinsmoke is actually pretty good. I think the Recollection Archive is the best feature added to OPTC, makes things so much easier whenever you have free time or whatever. The 3 times stamina, you only need to do the color orb drop 4 times instead of the original 6. Like, this is actually this is a really good take. And the thing about it is the Recollection Archive is kind of, I guess it's kind of like a forgotten feature. I know I use it a lot. I use it literally on a weekly basis for the Legends of OPTC video, where I go to the Recollection Archive, unlock a piece of content that I haven't been able to do in the past, or I haven't been able to just unlock anything that I wanted in the past. But with this new feature, I have been able to do that, and I actually really do enjoy that. The only problem with the Recollection Archive currently is that it takes so long for content to be introduced into the Recollection Archive. In my opinion, the way that it should work is once content has left the regular rotation, it goes immediately into the Recollection Archive so people can spend their recollection points to unlock the pieces of content that they haven't farmed. And like, hypothetically, if a piece of content literally just leaves and then people have time to clear it, then they have to wait like probably months until it comes back. So that is one thing that I think needs a little bit of updating in terms of adding the content to the Recollection Archive. But I do agree, I think the Recollection Archive might be legit one of the best new features in the game. We've got my man twitchmaniac, who by the way is another One Piece Treasure Cruise content creator. Make sure you go ahead and check him out. So talking about his hot take though, he says the GARP challenges are hella boring, not scaled to current level, and are the bane of OPTC content, but are only content people care for, and a majority or a major reason that OPTC's level design is so shit. I mean, to be honest, I don't agree with OPTC level design is so shit. I can understand that a lot of people have been talking about, at least on Japan, a lot of people in Japan have been mentioning that the game hasn't really updated and haven't really introduced a lot of hard pieces of content. And like, we can all agree that, you know, when an arena gets released, yeah, it's relatively difficult to get your head around it. But once you have like a team for it, yeah, you can just blindly go through it. But, you know, they haven't released a piece of content in a while that has been super uber difficult. Kind of like when like GARP Challenge 6 first came out, or when Training Forest first came out, especially the more recent ones like Hawkins or Kid. Those are pretty difficult training forests. And I know that there are people out there in the community that can literally build a team versus the Hawkins training forest with their eyes closed. And shout out to those guys, because I hate training forests and I really hate the uber difficult content. For myself personally, I love the GARP challenges because I feel like it's that perfect difficulty where it's not too easy where anyone who just re-rolled an account can just play it and win, but it's also not super difficult where, you know, you need to have like uber high next level god tier brain knowledge to get around it and just know every single unit in the game, how every unit is interacting with one another. That's pretty difficult to do, unless if you're doing extensive research on content and understanding what content does, how you can stall in certain places. That's pretty difficult for a large majority of the community, but I feel like GARP challenges are the perfect difficulty, not too hard, not too difficult, and they give you amazing rewards for doing it, so I kind of disagree with this one. We've got Christy's one here that says that PvP is a crap game mode. I mean, that is completely subjective in my opinion. I don't think it's a bad game mode personally. I can understand why people wouldn't like it. There are definitely some aspects about it that I think could be updated a little bit more, make it a little bit more modern, but the fact that you don't have any control of how your units perform in the quest is what I don't like about it. But I think generally it's an interesting idea. We need more blitz. I mean, hey, I mean, Blitz, in my opinion, is basically like treasure map without the map movement, right? You have to play for like a certain amount of time for, like, you have to play a certain piece of content for an extended period of time, and like, that's it. But I feel like treasure map rewards are just better than Blitz rewards for a majority of the time anyway, so that's my opinion on that. And Team is a fun game mode. I mean, if you say we need more Blitz, and then you say Team is a fun game mode, that obviously makes sense. If you like Blitz, you probably like treasure map. It's only true mode where you can grind. Games are pretty dead for the most part. Okay, well, I mean, I can understand. I mean, it's just different mindset, right? This person, obviously, Christy loves to grind. She likes the hardcore grind sessions of Blitz and Treasure Map. A lot of people don't like that. I think a majority of players don't like that kind of mindset. But I think for the hardcore players of the game, that's exactly what they want. And I think that the game needs to provide those things for sure. We've got Eli here that says that TM being introduced does more harm than good in keeping the long-time player retention. I think I can understand this one a little bit too. The problem with Treasure Map is if you miss a Treasure Map, you miss out on not only the Treasure Map unit itself, but you miss out on potential Treasure Map Sugo Fest. You also miss out on those rare recruit tickets. You miss out on limit break materials. You miss out on so many pieces of items and characters that you would have had otherwise. And if you miss out on a Treasure Map, it puts you very far behind, because those characters you get via Treasure Map are going to be useful for other events moving forward. And if you miss out, it really puts you further behind. So the fact that people are forced to play it, and the fact that it is a grinding type game mode, I can understand why, you know, a lot of people don't like it, myself included. I'm not a big fan of it, even though I do like to play it at times, but it gets to a point where the Treasure Map definitely goes for way longer than it kind of needs to, but it also, you got to get the balance of helping out not only the hardcore players, but also helping out the players that, you know, don't play as much, the more casual players, right? And it's really hard to balance that for Treasure Map for these two different types of player bases in the game, and I can understand, I can definitely agree with this opinion for sure. Alright, so we've got Bug here who says that most mid-late game players are pulling for like 3 rare recruits they don't have but need to do GARP challenges. I don't really understand what you mean by this one. He also says this community is really good. I think comparatively to a lot of the other gaming communities out there, specifically gacha gaming communities, I think Treasure Cruise is actually okay. There are obviously groups in the community that are more toxic than others, but I do think generally speaking that yeah, Treasure Cruise is relatively okay in terms of their community. Obviously with the recent drama that has been happening, a lot of people have been upset about certain things in the way that Treasure Cruise has been managed, but I think generally speaking, Treasure Cruise has a pretty decent community. And then he also says the fanfic legends, talking about Halloween and the summer party characters, take away from good legends we could have had instead. I disagree with this. I think that having Halloween and summer versions of characters just breeds a little bit more freshness into the game. Like, why not, like, instead of just releasing a regular, like, V6 Sabo, why not have it as a Halloween Sabo, right? Like, I don't mind it that much, you know, seasonal characters, and I think a lot of this feedback probably comes from the fact that Global never releases these themed characters when they're supposed to come out in the year, but luckily with this new schedule sync, these types of characters will release on the right timing throughout the year now, and I think that will kind of breed a little bit more excitement towards these characters. The leader DT just says, a Sabo overrated? No, you're kidding yourself. I mean, I hate dual units, right? But if there's any dual unit that I'm going to use as a captain, it's probably going to be a Sabo, maybe Shanks crew, maybe Capone crew. Those are like the only 3 dual units that come to mind straight away that I would ever think of using as a captain in 2021, moving into 2022. Here we have Ving. Now, Ving is actually one of my Alliance members, right? And he's out here saying that Pirate Rumble PvP is a more terribly designed game mode compared to Treasure Map. I can understand where that's coming from, though. I mean, we've already touched on a little bit earlier, the fact that, you know, there's no controlling of your characters in Pirate Rumble, which obviously sucks. But I think that there's a little bit of difference. I think if you talk about actually playing the game mode itself, yeah, I can understand why Pirate Rumble is a more terribly designed game mode compared to Treasure Map. But obviously, I think Treasure Map in general has been managed poorly, and I think that has led to Pirate Rumble being a little bit more popular, at least in my eyes. In my opinion, I've enjoyed Pirate Rumble way more than I've enjoyed Treasure Map, like in the past, like, you know, 6 months or so. I've enjoyed Pirate Rumble so much, and this is coming from someone that has pulled a lot of the new characters too, which means I can build a lot of these good teams in PvP. So for a player like me, yeah, Pirate Rumble is a lot more, you know, exciting, but for Treasure Map, I can understand why people who don't have a lot of these really powerful units may like Treasure Map a bit more, because those rewards are more enticing. Tom bringing up an opinion that we talked about a little bit earlier, but he says that waifu and seasonal legends are a waste. Again, I disagree with this one. Leave your thoughts about it down below in the comment section. Now we've got Shrimp here with a very interesting take saying that V2 Doflamingo 6 Plus could likely be the best legend in the game. Now I think that there is some merit to this. I think if they did Doflamingo 6 Plus perfectly with a super evolution, he could be one of the best legends in the game. However, we do already have V3 Doflamingo in the game, and I really doubt that a V2 Dofi 6 Plus would supersede a V3 Doflamingo that is currently out right now. We already know how good he is with his superclass. I don't think a non-superclass Dofi is going to supersede the current V3 superclass Doflamingo. However, I do think that V2 Doflamingo with a 6 Plus could be one of the better units in the game, depending on how they structure him with a super evolution. Hopefully that happens at some point. I'm really excited because V2 Dofu is one of the really cool units in the game. Very interesting, very unique. So I'd love to see what they do with him with the Super Evolution. So Static has a lot to say here. So he says, people downplay the difference between a rainbow captain and a class or color captain. A lot of people in the community just say rainbow equals boring, so it gets downplayed a lot. But being able to put any unit in your crew helps so much versus being restricted. And this is completely true, but the thing is if you're playing a lot of content over and over and over again, sometimes running these really boring rainbow characters, it just gets mundane. However, if you have a character that, while is a bit restrictive, has very unique abilities, that can definitely spice up the way that you play the game. Or if you have a unit that is dependent on certain things to happen in the middle of a quest, for the character to change in the middle of a quest, for certain things to occur, that can make it a little bit more fun. But then there's that fine line of building gimmick characters that are not only fun to use, but are also really good. And I think probably the best example of this is when Quick Gear 4 Luffy first came out. That character was a bit of a gimmick legend, relying you to consume recovery slots throughout the quest, and then when you launch a special, depending on how many of those recovery slots you had consumed, you would get a better special. And that was on probably right on the line of being too gimmicky versus being like just a crap legend. That was a really good way of doing it. But then you have a character like, you know, the Nami and Usopp, which just released on Japan, which I think definitely falls more on the side of being too gimmicky, right? But then, like, if you're talking about just, you know, rainbow stuff being super powerful, like Goldie Roger, a lot of people disregard Roger for the fact that he's just a rainbow unit, he's boring. In my opinion, I love it because it's not a Luffy character, it's not a Sanji character, it's literally Goldie Roger. It is the GOAT, right? He doesn't have any other unit in the game, it's just Goldie Roger, and the fact that he is... here's what he is, right? And the fact that he has abilities to remove despair, he removes the blow away of your beneficial effects, like, that is super unique stuff that only that character has, and I like that. Not only is he OP Rainbow, but he also has unique gimmicks that are only for himself, and a 3x attack boost to all characters. Like, you can't disregard that, and that's why I think, yeah, Rainbow does equal boring a lot of the time, but if you have a very unique mechanic like that, I love that about Goldie Roger. He then goes on to say, I also really dislike the class meta. I feel 90% of the game is about having type advantage, and there is no such thing as a class advantage. Maybe since I'm newer, my box is smaller. Problem is I build save versus a Kaido team's really struggle to fill my team. I mean, that's definitely a you problem, in my opinion. That's definitely a you problem. But I can understand what you mean, but I feel like the class meta is better because the class characters typically have more interesting kits versus color characters. Class characters have always, at least in my opinion, class characters have always been the more desirable units to use in content comparatively to running a monocolor team, because class teams can adapt their typings on their team to different pieces of content, whereas color teams are restricted to certain colors. Obviously, if they boost multiple different colors, that helps them out, but you know, then you just get to either they boost a lot of colors or they just rainbow. But that's why I like class meta versus, you know, type meta, because they can adapt and change their teams to different colors depending on the content. We got Raphael here with a super hot take saying we ain't getting ripped off of any gems through the sink. People are just butthurt. The gem rewards are there to provide a frequent free income. If you skip the months of content, skipping the gem rewards and especially login, basically self-explaining. If you disagree, I don't care. I mean, to be honest, I think that what Bandai has done as compensation for the sync progress thus far has been respectable, because if this was like Bandai in, like, you know, 2017, 2018, we would have literally got no rewards at all. They would not have cared. Literally would not have cared. The fact that Bandai have listened to the community to an extent, they have received all the feedback, and they are listening. They are giving us rewards. And obviously, a lot of people have been very upset about, you know, the Kizuna Clash rewards being super delayed, and you know, that was a very, very big error, and we know that, and they have given us the right rewards. And the thing is, people were complaining about those 30 gems, like especially for those in like the S rank of Kizuna, like, oh, where's my 30 gems, bro? It's like, I don't get why people were so hell-bent on getting those 30 gems immediately, because it's not like there was a Sugo Fest out right now that you really desperately needed to pull on. As of this video being recorded, yes, everyone has been distributed the right amount of gems, but just very, very strange. Very, very strange. Cruisingland says, Sugar to this day was a better legend pick than Reiju, both character-wise and utility. I mean, when we look back at it, yeah, I do think that Sugar is definitely a more valuable legend to own comparatively to Legend Reiju. If you guys remember way back when, Legend Reiju and Sugar were both together on the poll, where people could select which legend they wanted to be in the game. And Sugar was the one that initially won that poll, and obviously she came out and she's a very good legend. And then we obviously had Reiju earlier on this year, and just recently here on Global, and I think if you look back at it, yeah, Reiju is interesting because she boosts Int, Powerhouse, and Cerebral, and then she has a very interesting special, very interesting kit, right? And that's the good thing about it, is that they've brought the abilities and the devil fruit of the two characters into One Piece Treasure Cruise for Reiju and Sugar alike. And I think they've done a really good job with implementing both of these characters into the game. But yeah, I do agree that the fact that, yeah, Sugar is probably a better character to have over time, comparatively to Reiju. The Satirical Moose comes in with a very interesting take, saying that V2 Kaido is not a great legend. He isn't always a 5x captain. The 2x damage increase is cool, but it isn't a special anymore. 1 million damage is nice, but we're at a point where it doesn't matter anymore. If you're going to face an enemy with over 10 million HP, ulti page 1 is just better. Yeah, I mean, I would probably agree. I mean, if you're facing an enemy with 10 million HP or more, ulti page 1 is definitely a better unit to have as a crewmate, but it is still dependent on the content, right? Like, if we're taking, for example, you know, the Worst Generation Garp Challenge, for example, like that one, like, ulti page 1 is literally useless for that content. But if you talk about, like, Kizuna Clash, for example, well, yeah, I would say ulti page 1 would actually give you more damage comparatively to Kaido. And it's just mathematics, right? You got the 2x increased damage taken versus a 2.25 times conditional boost. On paper, yes, ulti page 1 is better. However, one of the really good things about these two characters in particular is that they're both driven, they're both powerhouse, and they both can be quick characters. So you can actually run them together if you really wanted to, so long as you can apply the debuff to the enemy. But that's the thing, ulti page 1 don't care about the immunity stuff. They can always give you the conditional boost, whereas Kaido is dependent on the enemy's immunity buffs at the time. So yeah, I probably agree with this one. Ulti page 1, in the grand scheme of things, if you're up against certain enemies, then yeah, ulti page 1 is probably better. But again, it's very situational, and I'm still a big fan of V2 Kaido. Alright, Regicide says, my hot take says that Kizuna and Treasure Map should have the same level of rewards per nav levels or bosses completed, as well as leaderboards, rewards, the exact same. I think that's a pretty interesting way of putting it, but at the same time, it's a bit different though. It's a little bit different because Kizuna has the accessibility of tickets and the Kizuna Exchange, which is just vastly different from what Treasure Map has. They're just two completely different things. I don't think you should be merging them together, because then it's basically having two versions of a Kizuna or two versions of a Treasure Map at once. And I think that splitting them up into two separate things is probably the right way to go about it. And then my man Kruby comes in here and says that Roger is vastly overrated. Bro, what are you smoking, bro? I can't even take you seriously when people say stuff like this. Like, what the hell? And then Eric comes in and says, Yamato is kind of overrated. So if Roger's overrated and Yamato's overrated, then what the hell is rated? I mean, this man's @ is literally @ I am a clown. Yes, you are a clown, because Yamato is not overrated. Okay, guys, we've found it. We've found the most rated legend in the game. We've got Roger and Yamato. Nah, they're overrated. But V1 Kaido is the best legend and continue to be the best legend until a new one can do what he does. And that's the thing. I honestly don't think they're going to release another V1 Kaido style unit at this point. I mean, Kaido is still really good. He does what he does. And I don't really think anyone is going to be releasing anytime soon that's going to be kind of, you know, challenging that. I feel like V1 Kaido doesn't really need another character to challenge what he does, at least not right now. We've got Sago coming in saying the V2 Shanks was the best legend in the game for a super long period of time. Namely, he was better than Gear 4 changed Luffy on release. Talking about that quick Gear 4 we talked about in the video earlier. Yeah, I probably agree with this one. V2 Shanks on release was a beast. He came out at such a good time too, around the release of V2 Akainu. The combination of Shanks and Akainu was the best combination that we had seen for a very long time. If you had those two legends, you could steamroll every piece of content in the game. Normal attacks only really hadn't taken full effect, and when you had V2 Akainu at full power with Shanks and some of the other really powerful int characters at the time, it was the best team combination in the game. You could literally cheese everything. Quin comes in and says Sobermask captain action is underrated heavily. I mean, I'd probably agree, because it is a good captain action, but it's like, when you think about it now, it's basically like Toki, right? Because Toki just makes two characters avoid everything, and that's basically what Sobermask did. But the thing is no one wants to use Sobermask as a captain, because, I mean, he's what, a 4.25 captain if you got a tandem slot? And if you don't, it's a 3.5 captain? I mean, free-to-play units these days have 3.75, maybe 4 times captains, right? So for a legend to have that, obviously is not as good, and that's the thing, Sobermask is way better as a crewmate anyway because of his activation crewmate effect of being able to get multiple activations of his special, and you can't get that as a captain. So Sobermask was built to be a sub. And then extending from that, we got Dr. Hives coming in saying, I miss captain effects like Sober Mask and Frankie docking, just the captain actions in general. And I totally agree. I mean, it would be cool if they introduced another cool effect like that, but at the same time, we've got super type, we've got super classes, we have versus effect. There's not really too many instances where they could just bring in captain actions anymore, unless if it's a super unique legend. And I feel like potentially they could have gone that route for the PvP legends, because we've seen with the treasure map legends, they're all super class or super types, and then we've got, you know, PvP legends, which all of the PvP legends that have released thus far, they're not super type, they're not super classes, they're not versus units, they're all just bare bones base legends. So I think giving those types of units captain actions would have been interesting, but unfortunately they didn't go down that route. And then we got Samuel, who just simply tweets that Legend Moria ain't that good. Bro. He literally heals, he has a 5x flat captain, he boosts 2 of the best classes in the game, he has an orb blocking super type, he has a special that can generate slots, he has an orb boosting special, he can reduce damage taken as well, he can basically tank all death hits, and he gives you color affinity on the following turn. There is literally nothing about that unit that is bad, and he's amazing in PvP as well. Like, almost in every, I mean, and his support effect as well, right? Like, in every facet, Moria is an amazing legend in the game, and I hate the fact that a lot of people disregard that unit because he is one of the best in the game. We got Roth here with some tweets saying TM gets too much hate. I mean, I guess, but I mean, it would be nice for a little bit more elaboration here, but I mean, yeah, TM is the most hated game mode, I would say, so that's fair enough. Garp Challenge is the best game mode. I don't know about the best game mode, but I personally enjoy it. This is class-based missions are better than color-based missions. This is a based take. Yeah, I completely agree with this. I mean, class-based missions literally gives us more gems, technically, but I guess if they give us class missions, they could probably shuffle it around in a way where we probably get the same amount of gems. Just, you know, I just agree with this. I think class-based missions are a little bit more fun. Type missions are a little bit boring in my opinion. And he says, most people who complain about RNG and PvP just don't know how to play and simply use the same team and expect it to beat everything. I mean, I'd say most people, yeah, I mean, that's probably legit. Like, I think a lot of people have the same mindset. If I build one team that's really good, I can beat everyone in PvP, which is definitely incorrect. While there is usually some teams better than others, there's not like one team that straight up beats everything, at least not in my opinion. I definitely think it is the best decision to make like 3 or 4 teams that can take on different opponents. Like a strength team to take on dex teams, like a good side team, a good slasher team, something like that, right? Or an int team if you want. Like, in my opinion, you need multiple teams to take on multiple different enemies. So the last one of this video is going to be with Lame. Now, Lame actually says here that normal attacks only has ruined meta diversity, and every special needs to be a boosting special because damage dealing specials are useless. And it talks about, you know, 6+NL, Doflamingo, and Katakuri. I can kind of understand this one, and I can kind of agree, but you gotta remember that Super Type Kaido literally released in 2021. That character is literally built around doing damage towards the enemy, and that character is still very good in my opinion. And the reason why that character is good is because, yeah, if there's no normal attacks only, he's really awesome to use, but even if there is normal attacks only, he can still provide like utility with his super type special. He's a good quick captain, he can still boost other colors, and he can apply the increased damage taken towards the enemy. So, you know, it is a bit conditional in the way that you can use the character, but if those things aren't there, he's immensely powerful. But if they are there, well, he can still kind of work. He can still do things, and he synergizes well with other really good characters in the game. And that's the way that they need to go about it, because when you look at these 3 characters that he's pointed out, these 3 characters literally only do damage. That's the only thing they do, and that's all they are built to do. So if they gave these characters utility or unique abilities, then yeah, a lot of people would enjoy these types of units still. Because yeah, if normal attacks only is there, they've got something going on for them. Unlike Super Type Kaido, who does have a little bit to do if that debuff is actually present. So with all that being said, that is going to wrap up this video today. Thank you very much for watching this one. Let me know down below in the comment section, what are your One Piece Treasure Cruise hot takes? Would be very, very interested to see what you guys say about this one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, and if you guys did enjoy it, make sure to leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all the content that I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. But other than that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.